Helen is a race car driver, and I'm her co-driver. A week ago, during an international race, she intentionally ignored the directions I gave her and drove us off a hillside. She ended up breaking her legs and became disabled. On the day she was discharged, she committed suicide by slitting her wrists in a hotel room. She left behind a suicide note, filled with accusations against me, written with such pain it felt like every word was crying out in blood. Jimmy, why did you give me the wrong directions? You ruined my life. So there I was, getting beaten to death with a metal rod by her obsessed fans on a foreign street. Only after dying did I learn she did all this to avenge her loved one. She resented me for taking the co-driver position from someone she cared for, which led to her loved one ending up in another car, resulting in a fatal crash and his ruined reputation. When I reopened my eyes, it was the day before Helen's first race. This time, when Helen wanted to change co-drivers at the last minute, I didn't stop her. But later, Helen regretted it. Before that international race, she humbly pleaded with me, Jimmy, look at us, we're meant to be an unbeatable team. I just want to change my co-driver. Why can't I? Don't I have the right to choose my own co-driver? Helen stood in front of the car, talking to the team coach. He frowned, clearly at his wit's end. Changing co-drivers right before the race affects you too. Jimmy's been training and doing trial runs with you these past few days. Your new guy doesn't even know the track. How will you race tomorrow? Listen to me, run this race with Jimmy and then discuss switching co-drivers. I sat in the car, watching the familiar figure through the window, feeling a little dazed. I was back. Last time around, Helen had done the same, arguing with the coach about replacing me with Calvin, who'd been newly recruited to the team. Just because Calvin was someone she'd been into for a while. But for the sake of the race, the coach didn't agree. I also tried to advise her, promising we could talk about the switch after the race. I had no objections, but Helen didn't appreciate it. She accused me of trying to cling to the position and wasting time so she couldn't make changes. Upset, she insisted on the switch, saying it was non-negotiable. In the end, faced with a serious reprimand from the coach and the ultimatum of withdrawing from the race, Helen gave up on the thoughtless idea. I, for the team's sake, said nothing further. The next day, Helen went into the race fired up and drove aggressively. Fortunately, our coordination was still strong, and we won the championship. From then on, Helen's talent shone remarkably, and she began her path to racing stardom. When she cheerfully went to find Calvin with her trophy, Calvin had already chosen another driver from the team. He touched the trophy, smiling as he said to us, Helen, Jimmy's been with you for so long, he's better suited for you than me. Since he likes being your co-driver, let him continue. I'm still new, and I don't want to compete with him. Calvin even confidently declared that in the next team race, he and his teammate would beat Helen and me, leaving it to be seen. And the tragedy that followed happened during that race. Calvin and his teammate went off the slope, crashing into a tree. Calvin died instantly, and his teammate ended up paralyzed. An investigation later showed the crash was entirely due to Calvin's mistakes. He realized after the race started that he forgot his notes but lied to his teammate, saying he remembered the track, resulting in wrong directions and the crash. But Calvin was gone. With his death, responsibility vanished too. Helen struggled for a long time to recover. She turned quiet, throwing herself into racing, winning countless world championships. Before each race, she only had one request. The co-driver must be me. Everyone thought we were the perfect duo in racing, envied by many. I gradually developed feelings for her too, under the effect of being together through all these intense experiences, but I felt something wasn't as it seemed. Until that international race came around. Before the race, Helen sat in the car looking at me calmly. This is the last trophy I'm getting for Calvin. Today is his death anniversary, but I don't want to keep doing this. I was skimming through my notes and didn't want to talk about it. Helen, focus on the race. Helen said nothing more, turning to look out the window. But during the race, things spun out of control. Helen ignored my calls on the track conditions, driving recklessly and heading down a dangerous slope, taking me with her. The The car rolled a few times before stopping. She broke her legs and became disabled. I hit my head and was unconscious for quite a while. The day I woke up, I heard that Helen had taken her own life in the hotel. Also made public was her handwritten suicide note, full of accusations against me. Jimmy, I asked you countless times if you were confident about this race and you laughed it off, saying it was no big deal. Maybe the many championships we won before made us complacent. You never took this race seriously. During the race, I followed your instructions completely. I trusted you as my closest partner. Why did you give me the wrong road information? Because I trusted you, I drove off the slope, breaking my legs, and becoming disabled. Racing is my whole life, Jimmy. Because of you, I can't race anymore. You ruined my life. Your carelessness and arrogance destroyed both our lives. Everyone who accused me was furious. Even though I didn't fully understand why Helen did what she did, I wasn't too bothered by the criticism. I figured I could clear my name by releasing the recordings from the car that day. But I never got the chance. The next day, I was released from the hospital, only to be beaten to death by her fanatics on a foreign street. Before dying, I recalled Helen's words as we crashed. Jimmy, do you regret being my co-driver? Remember, you owed this to Calvin. Turns out everything she did, twisting the truth, was all because she obsessively blamed me for everything, wanting to get back at me for Calvin. Even though the car accident didn't leave me sharing Calvin's fate, she still attempted to ruin my reputation with her death. The iron rod came crashing down onto my head. The pain caused me to gradually lose consciousness. I thought I was a goner. But when I opened my eyes again, I was back to that same day. I tried to calm my slightly rushed breathing caused by my excitement. I opened the car door and got out. Helen glanced at me, looking a bit annoyed. Coach. I stood opposite Helen and followed up on what she said. If Helen wants to switch co-drivers, then let's switch. She should know better than anyone else who fits her as a co-driver. Helen looked at me again, surprised by how easily I let go. Jimmy, are you sure? I shrugged nonchalantly. Sure, I also think we're not a good fit. I would have talked to Coach about it myself later, even if you didn't bring it up today. Since we're on the same page, might as well part ways amicably. Since fate gave me a do-over, there's no need to waste time on Helen anymore. There are so many skilled drivers on the team. Which one isn't gifted? My career, my life, it's not like I can't make a name without Helen. The coach looked troubled and rubbed his brow. But what about tomorrow's race? Seeing the coach ready to use the race as an argument, Helen quickly interrupted. Coach, I told you I'm confident, I don't need a co-driver. I remember the course myself. As long as Calvin is by my side, I can slowly get used to him. If you're still worried, Jimmy can lend his route notes to Calvin, right? Jimmy won't be running that track tomorrow anyway. Helen turned to me. Jimmy, what do you think? I had to laugh. What do I think? I think your imagination is just too rich. I said nothing, just smiled and turned to get my hard-earned notebook from the car. Helen raised an eyebrow in triumph, ready to reach out for the notes when I tore the notebook to shreds in front of her. I think with the skills you and Calvin have, using someone else's notes would be underestimating you, wouldn't it? Helen was stunned, then irritated, just about to blow up. The coach sighed, rubbing his temples, thinking his headache was getting worse. Jimmy, why are you causing a scene just like Helen? I smiled softly. Coach, we're not causing a scene. You have to trust Helen. This is her first big event. Would she gamble her future? Besides, her future has nothing to do with me. I don't care if she's causing a scene or not. With that, I turned and walked away, waving at them. All right, discuss it then. I won't be at the race tomorrow. I'm going to the team to find a new teammate. As I was really about to leave, Helen unexpectedly didn't want me to. Jimmy, playing hard to get doesn't work on me. I rolled my eyes quietly. Helen, do you think you're such a prize? That I'd play hard to get with you? Not looking back, I continued, you're overthinking it. I just need a co-driver. Do you feel up for it? I hadn't taken a few steps when someone called out to me. Unexpectedly, when I turned, it was her. If I remember right, her name is Anna, who became paralyzed due to Calvin's mistake in the past. The coach was very regretful for her back then because her talent wasn't below Helen's. She was supposed to race tomorrow, but her co-driver quit last minute, leading her to give up the race, which just allowed Calvin to swoop in. The coach came over. Anna, you and Jimmy teaming up could work. Jimmy, how about it? Most drivers and co-drivers are paired up in the team now. If you're sure about splitting with Helen, then I suggest teaming with Anna. I thought for a moment. I don't know much about Anna. Last time, my only contact with her was visiting her post-accident, representing the team. The frail girl, in loose pajamas, sitting by the window, staring at the sunset. Her body shrouded in shadows. Completely different from the vibrant person she is now. Just so lifeless. Seems like it's not just me who got a second chance. She did too. I suddenly felt, in this team other than Helen, Anna really is the most suitable partner for me now. So I agreed readily. Sounds good. No sooner than the words left my mouth, Helen rushed over and grabbed my arm, looking incredulous. Jimmy, so you had another plan in place, waiting for me to propose breaking up first? Huh? I thought about how tomorrow's race reflects on the team's honor. I figured we shouldn't act out of spite, so you're just my partner for now. Any change should wait until post-race. I was speechless. Why didn't I notice Helen's shamelessness before? She can twist any situation to her favor. I yanked my arm free from her grip. Coldly, I said, "Let go. Helen, I'm just your partner, not your possession. What makes you think you can summon me at will? We agreed your co-driver switch to Calvin was your call. So why are you meddling with me now? I didn't want things to get ugly with Helen. We're in the same team, after all, can't avoid running into each other." But she kept pushing. Helen was defeated, holding my arm, forcibly pulling me back to her. "Jimmy, can you stop being unreasonable? Tomorrow's race isn't just about you, we're all striving for it. Now's not the time for a tantrum." I frowned, about to lose my temper. Helen really knows how to twist stories, acting as if I insisted on switching co-drivers for personal gain before the race. The coach wanted to intervene, but Anna grabbed Helen's wrist first, making her let go of me. Anna smiled boldly. "Sorry, my partner asked you to let him go." I was surprised. Anna just started backing me up like that? Helen was furious, clutching her wrist, spewing at Anna. "Who do you think you are? What business do you have in mine and Jimmy's affairs? He's my partner. This is between us. Why are you butting in?" Anna looked a bit speechless at that sort of metaphor, and I couldn't help but laugh at Helen's shameless comment. "Helen, can you stop being gross? You're the one who wants to switch navigators, and you're keeping me from leaving. What do you want? Do you want Calvin to race with you, while I stubbornly hang on, waiting for you so you can flaunt your amazing charm? Do you think you're in a TV drama or something? Or that we're in a romantic relationship? We just broke up, remember? You suggested it and I agreed. We have no connection now, and I won't be your partner anymore. Please face reality, okay?" It seemed like we were about to argue, and the coach quickly stepped in to defuse the situation. "All right, that's enough. I'll decide. From now on, Helen teams up with Calvin, and Jimmy with Anna. Helen, come with me to discuss tomorrow's race with Calvin. Jimmy, you and Anna can start working things out." Okay. I didn't feel like talking to Helen any further. I gave Anna a look and followed her as we left the training area. Helen called out loudly from behind, "Jimmy, she can't compare to me. You'll regret your choice today." Regret? What a joke. If I repeated the mistakes of my past life, that would be the real regret. After leaving Helen, Anna and I got back to the club. Anna pulled a drink from the fridge, took a sip, and handed me a bottle. I accepted and heard her ask, "Are you sure you want to be my navigator?" I looked up and nodded. "Yeah, I'm sure. But I'm curious, why'd you pick me?" Leaning back against the table, Anna smirked at me. "Because I think you're a beam of light in the dark." As she spoke, a breeze lifted the curtain, and sunlight spilled onto her hair. Right then, she seemed like a beam of light herself, bright and radiant. I chuckled and teased, "What a strange metaphor. Have I saved your life or something?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "Maybe you have. This girl's keeping the real reason to herself. Huh? But it didn't matter to me. I just hoped my teammate this time wouldn't let me down like Helen had. I raised my drink like a toast and clinked it with Anna's. No more jokes, my good partner. Now that we've chosen each other, here's to us rocking those competitions in the future. Anna stared for a moment before pinching my cheek. Yeah, let's rock it. The sudden motion left me a little flustered, my face warming up. I blinked in surprise, thinking, wow, she's pretty friendly. The next day was Helen's race. Not keen on seeing it, but Coach, seeing Anna and me lounging at the club, dragged us to watch with him. Anna didn't refuse, and so I went along. At the start, Helen showed up holding Calvin's arm. With a frown, she shot us a look, then pulled me aside, grabbing my arm. Jimmy, mark my words, I'll be the champion today. She seemed so confident. I nodded without expression. I believe you. Her skills were undeniable, even if her personality left much to be desired. She'd been a champion in this very race last time. I saw no need to argue with a predetermined outcome. Surprised by my surety, Helen asked, "Then why aren't you my navigator? Why choose someone who can't even compete? If I win, Calvin shares the glory with me. That could have been yours." Huffing, she asked, "Aren't you regretting it?" I was getting annoyed, tired of this ongoing mess with Helen. "You're the one who wanted to switch navigators, right?" Caught off guard, she admitted, "Yeah, I didn't think you were good enough." "Then stop bothering me. I don't think you're so great either, nor do I care about your glory or have anything to regret. Think you'll always be on top in the long run." I chuckled, leaning closer. "Sure, you might be gifted, but there are plenty of talented people out there working hard. Be careful not to put yourself on too high a pedestal, or you'll tumble and become a joke." She hadn't even won yet. What was there to brag about? I thought Helen was pretty full of herself. Helen wanted to keep arguing, but the race was about to start, and Calvin dragged her off. "What did you have to say to him?" Calvin asked. "Sorry, Calvin," he insisted on talking. Their voices faded as they walked away. I headed back to the viewing area, staring blankly at the track. But after the race, the coach didn't seem as thrilled as the last time. Helen finished third. That was unlike her. How did that happen? Did my decision to not follow the past life script and be Helen's navigator change things, causing a butterfly effect? Anna seemed to notice my confusion, and she explained, "On the third track segment, it should have been a right 4 to left 5. Helen memorized it as left 4 to right 5, nearly crashing off the track. Her navigator wasn't familiar enough to steer her right. It's a pity. Still, finishing third shows her skill. She just needs to dial back her ego a bit." I nodded, agreeing with Anna. I never saw Helen after that. Maybe her bragging with nothing to show for it left her too embarrassed to face me. But Calvin seemed pretty happy anyway. The first time she participated in a competition, Helen came in third despite some mistakes. This shows her natural talent and bright future. He chose the right partner. He walked up to us proudly with his trophy. Just like last time, he challenged me again. Only this time, our partners were switched. "Jimmy, Helen really is something else as your partner, or I should say, former partner. Even though you ditched her and didn't want to participate in today's race with her, she still managed to snag third place on her own. So how about next month's rally? Do you dare to race against us? Helen and I are going to take that championship, no doubt about it." A rally race where Calvin's life might be on the line. I watched him quietly. "All right, see you at the track," I said. Since the outcome might change, I hope he doesn't end up like last time, causing tragedy for both himself and Helen. After Helen participated in the race, although she didn't take the spotlight as the champion like last time, snagging third place with her unique racing style still gave her and Calvin a bit of buzz in the racing circle. After all, for a newbie, getting such a result in a big event right off the bat is pretty impressive. This also drew a lot of attention during the rally race. It was the first event Anna and I teamed up for. After a month of practice and adjusting, it was finally time to see the results. Before the race, I bumped into Helen at the lounge. It was the first time I'd seen her in a month. I spent most of my time training with Anna, not hanging around the club. Helen seemed to be avoiding me too. It was fine with me. I didn't want to interact with her more than necessary. I glanced at her, ready to leave. Just as I turned, I heard her voice. Jimmy. I turned around. Helen was lounging on the couch in her racing suit, legs crossed, looking at me with a laid-back attitude. How's it going with Anna these past months? Is driving with her as easy as it was with me? Pretty much, I replied, turning to leave again. I didn't want to get into it with her. But Helen got up, stepping ahead of me to shut the door. Why just pretty much? Jimmy, can she match the chemistry we had? Why couldn't she? I looked straight at Helen. Speaking calmly, Helen, Calvin is your partner now. You should focus on your synergy with him rather than worrying about my team-up with Anna. Helen paused, then broke into a smile. Why are you bringing up Calvin, Jimmy? Are you still jealous? I was speechless. What are you talking about? Helen arched her brow. Jimmy, I know you like me, right? Ever since you started racing, I've been by your side, eating, sleeping, racing together every day. Considering how amazing I am, it's understandable you might have developed feelings. She continued, but I've known Calvin for a long time. He used to be my crush. Maybe it's love unfulfilled, but I still thought I liked him. She hesitated. When I heard he became a navigator and joined our team, I impulsively asked the coach to let him replace you. I was just chasing love and didn't expect you'd care so much. You, usually so gentle, got mad at me and even picked a new partner just to spite me. You were obviously jealous. And me? I'm just soft-hearted. Seeing you like that made me want to give you another chance to be my navigator. But you're too stubborn to see what I really meant, still arguing with me. Helen lowered her head a bit and stepped closer. After a month with Calvin, I realized I might be stuck on a childhood crush. He's not even half as good as you. Dumb and slow, not qualified to be my navigator. You're the one who fits best. Let's not fight anymore. Okay? I just discovered how self-centered Helen is. If she had said these words to me last time, perhaps I'd have struggled to reply. But considering we barely knew each other over a year now, why would she think I have feelings for her? Helen, self-confidence is one thing. Narcissism is another. I can tell you clearly it's not jealousy or anger. Partnering with Anna is a decision I made after careful consideration. I have no leftover feelings for you and no interest in you and Calvin's history. I'm not messing around with you. I just want to team up with Anna and do our best in the race. Jimmy, are you in here? Anna's voice came from outside. I pushed past Helen and opened the door. Seeing Anna, Calvin peeked from behind her. He looked disgruntled upon seeing us in the lounge together. What were you two doing in there? Chatting, I replied with a straight face as I walked out, nudging Anna. Let's go to the track. Anna nodded and followed. Passing Calvin, I asked, did you bring your pace notes? Who do you take me for, Jimmy? Like I'd make such a rookie mistake. Calvin muttered, rummaging through his bag to show me the notes. Moments later, he stopped moving, turning pale. I figured it out. Even with a different partner, Calvin forgot his pace notes. Helen sneered, you really forgot them. Calvin, it's a professional race. Be professional and take your job seriously. Stop it. I'll go back for it. There's still time. Calvin huffed, running off past us. Helen, likely embarrassed, trailed after him. Watching them leave, I shook my head smirkingly, only to catch Anna giving me a thoughtful look. What? I asked. Anna smiled, you're kind. Let's just see if they appreciate it. I tilted my head, pretending to be calm. I just asked casually, who knew he really didn't bring it? No, Anna said. I paused and looked at her, testing the waters. Know what? Anna kept smiling but didn't answer. Instead, she pointed outside. Let's go. The race is about to start. We should head to the track. As she walked away, I started to worry. Did Anna know something? There was something off about the way she suddenly asked me to be his navigator. Before this, she didn't even know me, and we basically never interacted. How could she have known Helen would want to change her navigator at that exact time and place? How did she just casually show up there and then choose me? Adding what she just said, could it be? An unbelievable thought popped into my head. Could Anna have been reborn just like me? The race was about to start, so I pushed aside these thoughts and joined Anna in the car. I flipped through the route book, taking a deep breath. Go, Anna, go. A staff member stood in front of the car, and as he finished the countdown, Anna released the brake and hit the gas. I got my head in the game, doing my job diligently. Straight 100 meters to right 6. Long hairpin, then straight 20 meters. Straight 30 meters, left 3 long. Followed by right 3 long 90 degrees. Straight 50 meters to right 3 long 90 degrees. Straight 200 meters. To right 3 90 degrees close. Perfect. As Anna crossed the finish line, our first race together ended seamlessly. I gave her a thumbs up. Great teamwork. Anna joked back. Great command. After the race, we bumped into Helen and Calvin. No surprises or mistakes this time. Helen took first place, just like last time. Anna and I got third. This result didn't surprise me. Anna's talented, but she can't yet surpass Helen, whose talent is unmatched. Hard work is the only way for the rest of us to keep up. We're simply starting from different places. I comforted Anna. Don't feel down. The road ahead is long, and all we need to do is grow at our own pace. Anna smiled, ruffling my hair. No worries. Being able to drive again is a blessing. From her eyes, I saw her love for racing and the gratitude for getting another chance. She was reborn just like me. Calvin showed off his trophy, while Helen casually glanced at me. Jimmy, not a great choice, huh? I kept my cool and looked at Helen. Yeah, or else I wouldn't have chosen you as my partner in the first place. She missed my sarcasm and laughed. Oh, regretting it? Why does she always ask if I regret it? Talking to her is futile. So, I rolled my eyes and left with Anna. That night, we went out for a meal to celebrate our first race together. Sitting at the table, we dreamt of the future. This is just the beginning. We're third now, but one day we'll be second, then first, and we'll get that Champions Cup. Cheers to our partnership. Always fun, Anna replied sweetly, wiping the corner of my mouth with a napkin. As our eyes met, I couldn't help but notice how pretty Anna was. Absorbed in my thoughts, I'd almost forgotten myself. Anna broke into a laugh under my gaze. Don't look at me like that. You're scaring me. My face flushed instantly. Probably had too much to drink. Feeling dizzy, I blinked and rested my head on the table, closing my eyes. The next morning, I woke up in an unfamiliar place, with no memory of last night. I tend to black out when I drink. I panicked, got up, and noticed my clothes were intact. I felt relieved. Walking out, I saw Anna cooking porridge in the kitchen. Only then did I recognize this as Anna's place, where I'd been before. You're awake? Have some porridge. Anna brought a bowl to the table. Sheepishly, I asked, I'm not a great drinker. I didn't do anything crazy last night, did I? Anna smiled and shook her head. No, you're fine. Relaxed, I just picked up my bowl when the phone rang. It was the coach on the line asking us to go to the club. One look at Anna, and we knew something was up with the team. Rushing over, we found out that after the race, another team with their eyes on Helen's talent had lured her away with a lucrative offer. Now Helen was breaking her contract with us, and Calvin was going with her. The coach asked me to talk to Helen, hoping to persuade her to stay. But I had no interest. This is Helen's choice, and I have no right or desire to interfere. I couldn't convince myself I had the power to make her stay. Anna stepped in, seeing my reluctance. Coach, after all that's happened, do you really think Jimmy can get Helen to come back with just a few words? Someone willing to betray after a little success isn't worth the effort. Asking Jimmy to do this only puts him in a tough spot. Please don't overlook Jimmy in the pursuit of retaining Helen. The coach sighed, acknowledging his oversight. Helen and Calvin eventually left the team, with their new team covering their high termination fees. On a regular afternoon, I ran into Helen going back to her team to get some stuff. By then, she'd already competed in a bunch of races, both big and small. Even when she didn't win, she still did pretty well. Her attitude was still smug as she looked at me with a hint of disdain. Jimmy, she started, a genius gets admiration anywhere. Why give up on staying with me for someone so ordinary? Come back, be my navigator, and I'll ditch Calvin on the spot. I stayed quiet, just looking past Helen. Calvin stood right there, and the two of them launched into a fiery argument. I rubbed my ears and got out of there, leaving the drama behind me. After that day, it felt like I was back in the old days of racing hard with Helen. Only now, Anna was my new partner. We ate, trained, rested, and raced together. Step by step, we earned our championship. For a long time after, it was mostly Anna and Helen fighting for first place, constantly one-upping each other. But after that incident, Calvin got released from the team and didn't race with Helen again. Helen kept swapping navigators, never seeming satisfied with any of them. Then, the night before a big international race, Helen somehow figured out my room number. Pretending to be hotel staff, she barged into my room before I even realized it. Clutching my shoulders, she demanded, "Jimmy, why won't you come back to me?" "Yes, I suggested you leave at first, but I've apologized so many times." "Why won't you listen? You obviously care," she went on. "Why else would you get so upset seeing me with Calvin? I've already cut Calvin loose, what more do you want? Why won't you be my navigator again?" Her expression was wild, almost desperate. Suddenly, she changed her tone, begging on her knees, "Jimmy, look at me. Please, we're meant to be an unbreakable team. Why choose Anna? What's so great about her?" I figured Helen must be losing it. I pushed her away hard with my foot. "You've only ever seen me as an accessory," I told her, "something you can get by without, but expect to follow you forever. You don't genuinely want me back, you're just mad I chose Anna over you. A genius getting ditched is quite the joke, isn't it? You remember what I told you before? Maybe you're talented, but you're not the only one. And many more talented people work harder than you. Haven't you noticed you're about to be outpaced by Anna? She's won every race against you these past 6 months. Want to know why I chose Anna?" I asked. "She never saw me as replaceable. She considered me an irreplaceable teammate, sharing in both triumph and failure." While talking, I'd already called Anna. She showed up quickly and had someone escort Helen out. "You all right?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm good. Get some rest," she said before leaving once I went back to bed. Despite Helen's drama, nothing shaken us. On race day, Anna and I exchanged a confident smile in the car, ready to win it all. During the race, Anna's car door malfunctioned. She had to hold it with one hand and drive with the other. Anna furrowed her brow. "Help me shift," she asked. "Got it," I replied. Calmly, I handled the shifts and handbrake when needed, and together we conquered the course. We won the world championship and stood at the top, inseparable. Meanwhile, Helen ranked way down in the tens, unnoticed. Emotionally low, she seemed to give up racing afterward. She'd once said racing was her whole life. No one ruined her life but herself. Epilogue. Later, I curiously asked Anna if she had a second chance at life too. Her paralysis days from a past life were still vivid. I'd visited her on what was supposed to be her last day alive. My visit prolonged her life. I told her, "Cheer up, the pomegranates back home are really sweet. When they're ripe next year, I'll pick some for you." Anna sighed, resting her chin on her hand. "Liar. I waited years, but you never brought me those pomegranates." I laughed, feeling freed. "Sorry, I'll book a ticket and take you home to pick them tomorrow. How's that?"